Rangelands and pastures form the world's largest land use. Rangelands are often marginal lands for which livestock rearing is the most rational form of land use. The livestock converts the vegetal cover unsuitable for either human consumption or cultivation into products like meat, milk, wool, hides, and dung cakes, and provides for ecosystem services. These pastures are also critical for harboring wildlife and medicinal plants for the well-being of mankind. Maintaining the optimum productivity of rangelands and pastures is essential for food security and sustaining the integrity of the biological diversity. Rangelands and pastures are found in all continents, and a variety of pastoral systems have evolved through time according to the prevailing geographical and socio-political conditions. Pastoralism is the oldest occupation of mankind. Through time, many pastoral systems have evolved into sustainable socio-ecological systems. The landless mobile pastoral system in northern Pakistan is characterized by seasonal rotation between uplands and lowlands. The lowland pastures are spread over semi-mountainous tracts in Charsadda, Malakand, Buner, Mardan, Swabi, and Haripur districts in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province and in parts of Attak and Rawalpindi districts in the Punjab province. The upland pastures are spread over the mountains of Mansehra, Badagram, Kohistan, Swat, Dir, and Shangla districts in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. The winter pastures are mainly composed of scrub forests and do not exceed 1,000 meter altitude. Upland pastures are grazed in summer and distributed between 3,000 to 4,500 meter elevations, and they contain alpine and subalpine grasses and bushes. The upland pastures also regulate the water flow regime in rivers and thus are important for flood control. Regular water supply and preventing flood disasters directly support people's livelihoods by protecting agricultural and industrial activities in the plain areas. Both lowland and upland pastures are usually community owned. Sometimes they're owned by individual landlords. These are leased on rent to the landless pastoralists based on the season and herd size.
यहाँ पे हमारी ज़मीन अपनी नहीं है, ये शहीदों की है। ये ज़मीन का हम देते हैं शहीदों को महसूल 7,000 या 8,000 रुपया।
Landowners are keen on having more livestock on their land to charge more rent, regardless of carrying capacity and pasture sustainability. This causes overgrazing and reduces the fodder for livestock in the pasture. At lowlands, besides receiving kalang, the owners also sell the fodder shrubs to cut for fuel wood. In winter, fodder is scarcer, hence the Ajar Gujar purchase hay, crop residues, and leaf fall of trees. Livestock straggle on roads and lanes feeding on untidy garbage piles. This results in higher incidence of livestock diseases causing high mortality. In summer, fodder is abundant and helps livestock to recover weight and improve their health. The pastoralists can thus produce more butter in summer, which is stored for consumption during winter months. There are about 7,000 families having this transhuman lifestyle. They spend nearly 6 wintering months in the lowland scrubs, where browsing and grazing is possible during winter. With the advent of spring season, the Ajars start moving towards upland pastures to spend 3 to 4 months on summer pastures. In the transhumance between lowland and upland, the Ajar travel 150 to 300 kilometers walking. This community lives in temporary dwellings, mud houses, houses made of piled stones, or tents often unsuitable for harsh climates and barely protecting the households and their livestock. They have very basic and simple livelihood. They routinely consume wild herbs collected in the vicinity of their houses or livestock products. However, other consumables like pulses, tea, sugar, flour, and salt are purchased in the vicinity of livestock markets after having sold their animals. The Ajars herd about 1 million small ruminants in herds averaging 150 heads, not including cattle and buffaloes. These animals supply meat worth more than 5 billion rupees to the national market. Ajars Gujars are also the custodian of indigenous breeds of cattle, buffaloes, and small ruminants, which appear to be better immune against prevailing livestock diseases, having better breeding potential. These breeds can strive well even on low-quality feeding available on rugged and steep mountain terrain and are better adapted to the local climatic variations. They are a precious resource not only for sustainability of this pastoral system, but also for improvement of the resident livestock in future. These breeds also have the ability to withstand the challenges resulting from changing climates. These adaptive traits are, however, threatened as a result of indiscriminate crossing with alien breeds. In the absence of adequate governmental measure to preserve this genetic resource, indigenous breeds of this pastoral system are at the verge of becoming extinct. The conservation of this resource is hence a pressing issue.
पहले हमारे पास ये कागानी माल था छोटा छोटा, उस माल का एक तो वज़न कम था, एक ऊन उसका सही नहीं था। उससे बाद हमको ये दूसरा नस्ल मिल गया, ये हमने छोड़ा, इसका ऊन भी सही था, इसका खूबी भी और सही था, मतलब गोश्त में सही था, पर इसका कुछ मसाला ऐसे था, बीमारी शिमारी का इसका बार हमला ज़्यादा हो जाता था। एक ये बहुत नाजुक था, पर पहाड़ में नहीं जा सकता था। उससे बाद हमने ये ग़वानी था इस्तेमाल किया इसमें। ये ग़वानी का ये मसला है, ग़वानी एक तो तेज़ टूटता है, पहाड़ में भी जाता है, एक इसका जो नर होता है वो हमारा अच्छा बिक जाता है।
The Ajjar crossed their livestock breeds under the market influence. First, they crossed the local sheep with Rambullet to obtain quality wool with better return. But after 40 years, they came to know the harmful effects of this crossing. Now they are crossing it with Afghani breed, which currently has better market value. This haphazard crossing is very dangerous, keeping in view the changing climate.
Besides natural hazards, the Ajjar confront many issues in both lowlands and uplands, including theft of animals, predation on livestock, coercion by landlords and animal dealers, and other social problems. They have limited, if any, veterinary coverage for their animals.
زمون مال 2-3 ساوري دي دلته دا چې ناجوړه شي که نه نو مونږ دوای واخلو ډاکټر نه مونږ له صحیح لکه سرکاري دوای نه میلاویږي مونږ له راکړي په پیسو هغه هم صحیح دوای نه وي زمونږ مال هغې سره ډېر لکه لږ کمزور وي نو هغه ډېر کمزور شي.
The yearly mortality of their livestock is as high as 36% against the general rate of 5 to 10%.
We are improving the rapid response mechanism so that our teams can reach timely to those herds in case of outbreaks and take appropriate measures for the rapid and quick diagnosis of the disease, and then to adopt the control measures. Then we are looking into improving the vaccine coverage to these herds, and in that case we are also improving the cold chain mechanism. There is always a hue and cry about the quality of veterinary medicines and drugs. So we are taking regulatory mechanism and putting in place those mechanisms so that the quality of medicines and vaccines are improved. Then again, there is a need to improve the knowledge and awareness of these herders so that they can not only take some appropriate measures for the reduction of these mortalities themselves, but also we can ask them to consult the veterinarians and the local staff of the department in case of treating their animals.
Because of their mobility, Ajjar Gujjar also do not receive any health or education services for themselves and their children.
हम तो सोचते हैं वो कर ही नहीं सकता जो ये बकरी है ये तालीम नहीं करूँ देता ये आम बुढ़ा हो गया वो छोटा बच्चा जिधर गया इसको बोलता है तम बकरी सीखो वो सीखता सीखता वो मैं मारे नालों नहीं बुढ़ा होगा जिससे जंगल में
They are deprived of social development because these facilities are mostly confined to settled populations. Udjers sell small part of their livestock in markets by themselves. Most of the animals are sold to middlemen at loss. The market systems in towns are ill-coordinated, and it is very difficult for Udjers to obtain reasonable price of their stock. The non-availability of facilities for feeding, watering, shade, and shelter for livestock in the markets results in exploitation of Udjer. The Udjers are often compelled to sell their livestock at a loss, since they can neither retain the animals at a market nor can they return them to the pastures.
پمینګور کې دا مشکلات دي چې کله بوتل کې شپکای نو پولیس تنګي چې تا کارډو خیا ته کم ځای ته چرته راغلي.
The markets in the town are run by the municipal committee contractors. They do not provide any facility to the wholesale animal dealers, in particular loading, unloading facilities.
د میله کې کومه سہولت نه وي ټیکس موږ ورکوو سره د ودرې دوام ورکوو بیا د قانون حکومت چې ټیکس یې امر کړی ورکوو.
More than 300 million rupees of taxes are annually collected at livestock markets in the province and could be used to arrange the needed facilities. This would enhance the bargaining power of the Udjer, allowing them to stay longer in the market and ask for higher prices.
زمونږ خو چې دی نه دا له دې €1 انټري فیس دی او 5% چې نه په دې باندې چې نه سیل ټیکس دی دا موږ سالانه بنیاد باندې 3 کال لپاره چې نه اکشن کو کله چې نه سالانه بنیاد باندې اکشن کو نو لاغه هغه مدن چې راځي هغه د منګوري د خلکو باندې چې دی نه هغه خرج کیږي.
The supply of animals to the markets is higher in autumn and decreases towards spring. The greatest demand of animals is placed on the markets during the Eid al-Adha Muslim holiday, which is celebrated with sacrifice of animals. The variation in demand and supply causes significant fluctuation in livestock prices, often to the disadvantage of the Udjers. Till nearly some decades ago, this pastoral system was at equilibrium with the prevailing socio-ecological environment. This was working with trust and symbiotic relationship between the Udjers and sedentary landowner farmers at lowlands, uplands, and along the transhuming routes. The mobility of the Udjers was gradual from lowland to upland and also on the way back, as they used to journey with the growth cycle of natural vegetation and agricultural crops. Since the harvest of wheat was earlier at lower elevations and later at the higher, and their journey was adjusted to these harvest periods. The return journey from upland was also similarly gradual with the harvest of maize and rice crops. During the journey, the Udjers' animals benefited from stubbles of wheat, rice, and maize crop, and the landlords benefited from having their fields manured. With population and settlements growth, cereal crops were replaced with cash crops having no complementarities with Udjer transhumance, and this development ceased the sedentary mobile pastoralists' harmony. Sedentary farmers became less keen on letting the Udjers graze their livestock on fields planted with cash crops. In addition, monoculture pine and eucalyptus afforestation projects also have increasingly evicted Udjers from traditional grazing lands and obstructed their transhuming routes. Consequently, the Udjers are compelled to travel on physically challenging mountain ridges or on roads with heavy traffic, complicating the handling of the herds.
उधर भी जगह बंद हो गया और थोड़ा के जो रेवड़ी का नाला है उधर आप 5 दिन जमा कर रहे थे वो जगह भी बंद हो गया. नीचे रास्ता तब्दील हो गया. रास्ता ऊपर पहाड़ से माल ले जाता है उधर कश्मीर के साथ. बिल्कुल ये जिधर माल नवेशी जाना था जानवर जाना था वो रास्ता बिल्कुल बंद हो गया.
Disturbances of the traditional pastoral system have substantially affected the socio-ecological harmony of the Udjers. They are compelled to accelerate their transhuming pace due to the lack of grazing and resting places along the routes and arrive earlier than usual at upland pastures. Their transhumance has shortened from 40 to 50 days to 15 to 20 days travel. The animals arrive in upland pastures with the advent of spring, which are still covered with snow. Soils are wet and liable to compaction, and the vegetation is hardly in early sprouting stage. This reduces the fodder production capacity of pastures. Similarly, the back journey from uplands to lowlands is delayed, and animals are kept for longer period at upland, putting further pressure on these pastures. The ultimate overgrazing thus results in diminishing productivity and degradation of the upland pastures and their biodiversity. In the 1980s, the cultivation of off-season crops for higher cash returns in upland started. This led to reduction in key grazing areas for ujjars. As a consequence, more pressure was exerted on the leftover grazing land.
دا زمونږ د وړي ځای وی دا دې ځای کې مونږ لاس شل ورځې به وښکلې دلته پټي وښکلې دي سره یو خر مونږ نشو اړولی مونږ باندې ستر ظلم دی.
This also created social tension between the landowner, farmer, and ujjar. For the greed of cash crops, steep slopes are also increasingly put to tillage. The steep slope cultivation is increasing every year without proper terracing, resulting in large-scale soil erosion. For improved output of cash crops, use of pesticides has also been started, which is causing environmental degradation.
In view of the marginalization of the ujjars and their pastoral system, the government and the non-government organization should take the cognizance and should draw policy approaches to address these issues. Such policy approaches may include protection and regulation of tenancy rights of the ujjars and sustainable use of pastures, demarcation and legal protection of the traditional resting places and mobility routes of the ujjars, renunciation of the cropping and other encroachments in the upland pastures, and control with demarcation to restore the pastures. This renunciation may be partly compensated with international funds for reduced carbon emissions. Conservation of indigenous breeds of livestock and traditional livelihood system as required under the International Convention on Biological Diversity. Introduction of mobile health, education and veterinary services to expand the overall livelihood options of the ujjars. Improvement of livestock marketplaces with adequate facilities and part of tax revenue spent back on the marketplace. Planting of local fodder shrubs and trees species along the mobility routes and around the resting places of the ujjars. Lastly, the unification of the policy approaches of local government, agriculture, livestock, forest and wildlife organization for the sustainability and effectiveness of the policy intervention.